So this RTNAR discussion is meta RTNAR discussion. So we're going to be talking about how we're going to be doing them in the future, mainly. So the first thing that's going to be changing based on a little bit of input from others is that instead of going through Voices with Viveki episodes and so on, we're just going to go through Awakening from the Meaning Crisis. Because in our first discussion, after we sort of noticed that the RTNAR stuff kind of grinded to a halt, we decided that the reason it wasn't going very well was because we weren't approaching it with a problem formulation sort of attitude. And it took me all this time to realize that, well, Awakening from the Meaning Crisis is basically 50 hours of problem formulation. So it seems like we should probably go through that first and make as much, literally just mine this, mine gold mine, I suppose, of information for RTNAR. Obviously, I'm aware, Brett, you have already made quite a few notes on all the episodes. Have you done all of the episodes?
Most of them. There's a few at the beginning I've missed, but I can add into them. But yeah, most of them are there.
Cool. So there will be Brett's notes and this website we found a while ago in the glossary channel called literally awakeningfromthemeaningcrisis.com, where someone has gone through and started making a glossary of terms and so on. And they've also provided three, at least on the first episode, they provide 3 different people's summaries of the episodes. So as we go through these videos, we can all make our own notes, and then we can check Brett's notes, we can check these other summaries to enhance our own notes, and then we'll want to do that so that when we come back to discuss what we've learned, we won't be sort of repeating what's already there too much, or we won't miss what's already been written down. So second of all, I'm thinking that as we do this, we might want to record information a bit more. Obviously, we record it so far, but feels like maybe we should, I'm not saying we absolutely have to because I'm not in charge or anything, but maybe we'd want to get this whole wiki idea going. I don't know where that's actually gone in the past. I've seen some talk about it. And this guy who did the Awakening from the Meanings Crisis.com was kind of doing that, but on his own. So maybe we want to make our own version, because I've tried to contact this guy who did it, and he is not responding. I tried again today. I've only sent one message so far.
Yeah, so Mark's put together a wiki in sort of soft launch form. So we do have the infrastructure right now for the wiki. And,
nice.
So maybe Mark can talk a bit about that.
Yeah. There's some information from RTNAR already in there that Manuel mostly put in. So we're going to move that when we get a new domain, and hopefully my servers will be up this weekend, and we can secure this thing and lock it down and put accounts on it and all that. Right now it's kind of wide open and it's security through obscurity or something. That's got group Lectio practice and a bunch of other stuff on it, but there's a whole section specifically for the religion that is not a religion, and there's a whole there's the list of perennial problems, list of perennial needs, right? There's a bunch of stuff already on there you can look out. And I'll just say that the key to a wiki the key to a wiki is structuring it correctly. Not that you can't restructure it, but you know, the problems that arise with wiki usage, and I've been using wikis for way more years than most other humans, you know, especially on large projects, we'll say, the key really is that because you can put information in any format, people tend to put it in the wrong format for accessibility and searchability, and then other people can't find it, so it doesn't do any good. So you just want to avoid that, and you know, I'll help with that to the extent that I can. And then, yeah, at some point we're going to take what we have on this test wiki or soft launch wiki, however you want to frame it, and put it on a proper domain, and you know, hook it up to a website, right? So the website will have a link to the wiki or something, and other tools like that, like forums.
Jasper, sit.
Online.
Sit. Jasper, sit.
I want to turn off your mic if you're not talking to us.
I don't think any of us are named Jasper, but I'd be interested
No,
to see
that's...
what Jasper has to say about RTNAR.
I'm sorry. He has lots to say as a dog. You know, he knows lots of things about religions that are not religions. He's all connected, you know. I'm sorry. I thought my mic was auto shut off. My apologies.
No problem.
All right.
Yeah,
so that's the state of the wiki. So like I said, you know, mostly Manuel put up a bunch of stuff there already, and you guys are welcome to put up more stuff as needed, and then we'll move it at some point. And you know, it's already got 3 phases, right? Problem definition, figure out the structure, and then phase 3 was to be determined as I'm looking at it now.
Right, so obviously you're talking about Arx Veritatis. You're going to assume you mean you're going to move it to another wiki with like a different name, like RTNAR or...
Well, we're gonna have a community wiki, and once we decide on the community name and get a domain for the community name, it won't be awakening from the meaningcrisis.com, obviously, because that's taken, and that's too long. But it'll be something like that, right? And you know, we have some possibilities already, and you know, maybe it'll get folded into you know, the Viveki Foundation stuff or something, we don't know yet, right? And then once that happens, we will move what is on this server here to that new domain on a different server, right? And assuming I ever get my server back up, but my server should be up this weekend. So that's kind of the plan. So you won't lose any work if you put it on arxveritatis.com, and that is the citadel of truth after all. So it should go there for the moment.
Okay, cool. So yeah, that's coming soon then. It's not long down the road.
Yes, all of this is imminent within this month for sure. Almost certainly within this month.
Very nice. Oh yeah, and maybe so another one is maybe we want to stick like a group Google Doc or something in the RTNAR thingy, like the channels, so that we could all compile as we go through the week. I don't know, or maybe after we've had our discussion about it.
Yeah. For now, Google Doc is probably the best way to go. There is a Google Doc like thing that's free that I would put up on one of my servers once I get my big server working. I'm planning on doing that as well. That's a little more problematic, but not super problematic. But yeah, we definitely need shared notes and you know, that are beyond the wiki. So the wiki's sort of like formatted, right?
Yeah.
You want to have access to forums, right? Which is another thing I'm committing to putting up at some point. And in the forums, we'll have a RTNAR forum, and then you guys can do the sort of semi-talk there instead of just on Discord. We'll say better search facilities, for example, are available on good forum software. And then we'll have a shared doc thing, or you can use Google Docs. Use Google Docs for now, obviously, because my stuff's not ready.
Very nice. Oh yeah, and of course.
Do you want to use Google Docs, or I think we've still got the crypt pad going there?
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say we want to probably copy over everything that's on that CryptPad thing. I don't know about using CryptPad anymore, because at least when I used it, it was a bit slow. And we'd barely put anything on it, and it was already getting slow. I don't know if you had the same thing. I understand some people may have a problem with using Google Docs. But I don't. Yeah, I'm guessing no one does, given the silence. If that guy who made awakeningfromthemeaningcrisis.com does not respond and can't get us access to it, yeah, we should probably copy all that over as well. The relevant info from the glossary. Okay, so now there's some things to discuss. I'll try and do the shorter ones first. Shall we sort of rejig the RTNAR channels so that it's maybe got a bit more focused a thing based on how we're gonna go forward, like just general discussion, note sharing, or something like that? Any thoughts there? Because it is basically dead at the moment.
What do you mean it's dead? What's dead about it?
No one ever posts in the RTNAR text channels anymore at this point. We get like, I look in there and see something like once every, like maybe 3 or 4 times a week. It's like 1 or 2 messages. And like if we tailor the channels to what we're going to do with Awakening from the Meaning Crisis, people might, I don't know, put stuff in there and because they feel like it's more appropriate. Don't know.
Well, maybe we could also start by asking what's slowing down. The people here are the people who are most active in that forum. What's stopping posts in that forum?
Well, yeah, I don't know. I think we basically at the moment just save everything for the discussion, and like topics like structure, like that's sort of from when we were just sort of bashing our head against it rather than formulating the problem. Like I don't think, like maybe we could say stuff about structure, but I'm not sure there's a lot we could say about it. Obviously wiki's a good one. Narrative and metaphysics are like okay. Yeah, anyway, that's just something to consider basically.
Yeah, and and if you want, I mean, I can add RTNAR notes. Would you like?
Yeah, like notes discussion or something.
Sure. I'll call it RTNAR notes.
Cool. Oh no, AFTMC notes, because we're going through those, yeah. Nice. Seeing as I really like to try and make this as easy for everyone as possible, is there, like, do you think there may be a better time for this? Because Thursday is sort of a funny day, but I understand the weekend may already have quite a few things in it already.
And this time works for me. What do people think?
A little later would work better for me, but would be bad for Veloskin, so I can manage with this time. It just means that I have to be on mute for most of the time.
I mean, it's not too bad for me, actually, because I basically live on American Eastern time, so despite living in GMT, there you are. So yeah, well, I'll just put it at 1 a.m. Well, not 1 a.m. Your time, it's 8 p.m. There you are. Yeah. So I'll do that and see how it works.
Would 8:30 p.m. be possible? Just because my daughter goes to bed at somewhere between 8:20 and 8:30. So if it's 8 o'clock, then I can't come at the beginning. But I guess I could come halfway through, half an hour in, which is just fine.
Yeah, I mean, the discussion tends to last 2 hours, which won't keep me up too late. So we'll try that too. Unless it's like a problem for anybody else for it to get to that point. Seems the answer is no. Last thing to say.
The issue is that a lot of the people
Go on.
aren't here to raise their.
Say that again.
I think that a lot of the people who can't make this time aren't here to tell us about it. They're self-selected. Can already make this time, so they don't have a problem. But you could be excluding other people that haven't because of.
I'll try and like write that down somewhere. And
well, let's
Brad
put
is
it
going
in
to set up a poll.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll do written our discussion, and we'll do a poll, and then we'll start to find out, where people are at in terms of what times they have available for which sorts of things.
And we can have more than one meeting. Like we could have like a Eastern time zone meeting and a different time zone meeting too. So different people can do it.
Yeah, if you're doing video reviews or notes reviews or something, that'll work fine, right? I mean, but if you're doing like organizational review, then everybody has to be there or something, right? Or at least a representative has to be there from both groups or something.
Yeah, because otherwise we're having two groups working in parallel, and that's not really useful.
Yeah, that's suboptimal. I basically chose this time because, well, I like it because everyone else in my house is asleep, so I get quiet. But it's also after work and after dinner for you Americans, which are just inevitably the majority of the people here, because you've got so many people in your country. So it's probably going to be mostly convenient for that, inevitably. So yeah, we'll put that in the RTNAR text channel and see if anyone wants to shift it around. The last thing is that I am Struan brought up that he didn't want the Voice of the Viveki stuff to just completely go away, which I think is fair because I still want to give Awakening from the Meaning Crisis priority, and it's probably good for us, but we'll see. But I think it's probably good for us that we alternate still, because making all these notes on a that whole video in like a week probably may not be viable for a lot of people, and we want to be able to think things through nicely, don't we? And to keep up with all of the info going on, like wikis and glossaries and so on. But anyway, yeah, like the reason it might be good to preserve Voices with Viveki stuff is because it's more contemporary, and it's coming out of a lot of John being in dialogue with like countless people who have improved his thinking and offered new ideas and so on, rather than us just relying on older info which only comes from John. So, but I don't know how to fit that in without us just doing a video every week.
So we're having the people come over, right, for Q&As. So I kind of want to do like a watch party on a video of a person coming over, just to be prepared for the Q&A. And then there can be some discussion around the video during the watch party. So that's one option,
Is
right?
it a RTNAR topic?
Well, no, I don't want to go to like exclusive RTNAR, but like there will be RTNAR related stuff there.
Yeah.
I mean, to some extent, right? There's zero stuff that John's talking about that isn't RTNAR related, right?
Yeah.
Which is why you're going to watch the series over again. So, you know, if you consider that, then any of these voices for Vakey have at least a good potential of shedding light on RTNAR issues. And if we're doing these watch parties, which I think is a great thing, on the guests that we're having on here for Q&A, then you know maybe that's enough fill-in to Manuel's point to solve both problems.
I mean, yeah, that sounds satisfactory to me. Like, pretty much solves the problem.
Great.
I'm still. I guess I'd like to see what Struan thinks anyway.
About what?
The whole doing watch parties to fill in the voices with the fakey hole.
It's out.
Huh? Your mic's a bit funny. Cuts out a lot.
Sorry?
Your mic's cutting out a lot, so I didn't hear what you just said.
Is this better?
Yeah.
I was just saying, well, I'd have to see what the watch parties look like before I could draw a conclusion.
Okay. I mean, I guess you could still prepare stuff in advance of what, like going to the watch party. You just have to sort of go along with the format of like watch, comment, watch, comment. But yeah. Anyway, that took less time than I expected. It was only half an hour. I've basically said everything I was going to say. So we can just go into the general discussion now, which we would normally do.
So sorry, do you want me to keep the recording going, or
maybe for like half an hour longer or something?
Sure.
If it's boring, we can turn it off. So, if anyone's got any RTNAR related ideas to share, go ahead. I do not. I wish I did. Oh, and remember to make notes on Awakening from the Meaning Crisis, Episode 1, for next week.
I will just say, I guess, in terms of RTNAR and the people interested in RTNAR, you know, one thing that John's made clear is the importance of the ecology of practices. And I thought, you know, so we're doing quite a bit of stuff here on the forum, and obviously you guys don't have to do ecology of practices with us, although that would be great. But I think the people who are most interested in RTNAR probably we have a responsibility to be following our own ecology of practices, and obviously we're here to try to help everyone do that.
Yeah, that was the note I forgot to mention. Somehow, like, yeah, if you're really interested in RTNAR, you need to do that too. Because obviously the ecology of practices is probably the centerpiece of the whole thing in the end, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so what main ecologies of practices do we have right now? I know that the meditation's a fairly big one.
Yeah, so
go
ahead, Mark.
There's different pieces to meditation, right? So he's got his own meditation type. He's doing it in a specific order for a specific reason, which he explains in the lessons. And then there's also different forms. So he's got the qigong, that standing moving practice. right? And then he's got the seated moving practice. He's got chanting in there that he's added in. These are all separate lessons, right? And he's got Lectio Divina, and then we have a group Lectio practice that we do based on John's stuff, right? And then he's gone into the Epicureanism, and now we're in Stoicism. So there's a bunch of practices in there, like maximization and philosophical fellowship, and journaling your cognitive biases, right? And actually, we need a better list. I've been talking about this for a while, and I haven't sat down and done it. But yeah, he kind of sneaks in some of these practices in the middle of the lesson instead of, he just changed formats basically when we switched to the Western traditions outlined in Wisdom of Hypatia. So yeah, we definitely need a better list for we'll say the Western stuff. I think we have meditation notes that are fairly complete, both Brett and I, that talk about all the meditation side stuff, or most of it anyway. And then there is a set of notes on Wisdom of Hypatia, Chapter 4, which is the Epicurean stuff. So those notes are available. I did those notes. And then, like I said, we need to go through the newer lessons and pick up on all the things that John's talking about, because he keeps sneaking in practices sort of in the middle, and he's not as sort of clear about it as he was, right? So he's got self-examination, journaling, looking for commission, omission, bias, and virtue, Stoic daily reading out of a particular book, and that's part of maximization, creating maxims, right? And now he's got this new thing where you're supposed to practice deep learning on the maxims that you produce.
So there's a whole bunch of stuff that we're trying to formalize and support each other and account to each other. So those are sort of groups we're trying to get going so we can mutually support each other.
Right. And John specifically called out the Discord server in the lesson as the place to go to do some of these practices with people. That's why we renamed the ritual hall to the Grove, and we're sort of following the Epicurean practices there with their Grove idea. And John's trying to get us to do this, basically, right? To involve ourselves as the hub, we'll say, of the ecologies of practice based off of the YouTube lessons that are still ongoing, right? And so I think we're most of the way through Stoicism, although I need to catch up in the book myself. And then we're going to move on to Neoplatonism. And I don't know what, if anything, he has planned after that. But it's worth at least engaging in the lessons playlist for the meditation series, because as it turns out, the meditation series turned into an ecology of practices series, and it's just named meditation due to historical accident.
So I guess the question is everyone interested in joining us on this ecology of practices journey? And again, you can do your own thing. You don't have to do it with us, but it's nice doing it together and working together and supporting each other in it.
Right, and then more to the point, I think to the point of RTNAR, I would say that, if you think that engaging with the AFTMC, original material is important, I would say that explicitly that the meditation lessons in particular, although all of the meditation series is excellent because he does Q&As, and his Q&As are fantastic, especially his answers, are that's really important, right? Because that is those are part of the practices that he wants you to engage with in your own personal ecology. And just understanding that, because he does go into a lot of the science during those lessons, just understanding what he's talking about there, might give you a better idea in terms of, well, here's the practical implementation, the actual practices that he's embodied himself that he thinks are part of enabling this new mode of engaging. Yeah, or metanoia. This new mode of engaging with the world, based on this principles that I think he's trying to embody for RTNAR in particular.
Speaking of which, how's that schematizing the practices coming?
Well, exactly zero work has been done on it because I was on vacation, and I need to get back on that for sure. But there's a bunch of stuff going on, so we'll see which thing bubbles up first. Yeah, the next step in the schematization is actually just for me to sit down and use our little model that we've come up with to see if that helps us or if that is not helpful. So that is definitely ongoing work, and it is actually about half done. So I just need to finish going through the last stage of the transformations I was trying to do to get the schematization, we'll say, to work, and then we have to send it off to John and see what he thinks, sort of thing.
And I guess another project, RTNAR related project, is coming up. So Callie came up with some good rituals, but I think we want to, come up with more rituals that are RTNAR, more directly RTNAR related into the lessons that John's been talking about in AFTMC and all that. So that can be a project of coming up with modern day rituals for RTNAR, and experimenting and expanding and so on.
Plan.
That serious play.
All right, so the problem is that we're still trying to get the problem formulation done, right? So we can't say, let's create a ritual for this and a ritual for this and a ritual for this, because we might find out in the end that only A and B were problems and C is actually, I guess we could, but we have to be ready to throw away quite a bit of the work.
I was going to say, it's okay to mess to like experiment with it. It's okay.
Well, it's even necessary, right? Because you need to figure out what makes a good ritual and how you can do all the things that are in a ritual, and like that's really hard. So it's not like we can just make rituals and then it's okay. Like that's an evolving process, and like in every tradition, rituals fade and get generated over time. So like I don't see that as a issue.
No, what I mean is, what do we need a ritual for? Like, that's a fairly basic question. We don't want to be creating rituals with no purpose, but at the same time, if we don't know precisely what the problem is, we don't know, okay, what solutions, what can we put in rituals to be a solution? What kind of rituals do we need?
Right, but I think again that falls back on what Manuel was saying, is that regardless of whether or not you actually understand, there's so much work that needs to go into understanding rituals and just trying things out, that it's worth it to try things out, because you knowing that you're gonna throw most of it away anyway until problem formulation is done, we'll say. But then when you get to that point, whoever's off doing the ritual or whatever parties are off doing the ritual project will be ready to put together higher quality rituals when we know which specific point they need to hit or something. And that's part of, say, the experimentation. So one of the things that we did already with the group Lectio practice was, we came up with some theories about how this might work, right, based on John doing the Lectio as part of his lessons. And we put together a couple of theories. We tried a couple of different formats, and then we figured out which format was best. And then we kept iterating and making it better. And now we have, a really cool group Lectio practice that John has seen and commented on, unless I'm misremembering, and he really liked it. So and since that's part of his mission anyway, is the experimentation side, right? He's rather explicit about that. We kind of helped out on that, right? So that was very useful.
We don't know what we need a ritual for, so we can create 5 different rituals to kill your past self. Do we need a ritual to kill your past self? Maybe, probably. But on the other hand, we don't know that we need that kind of a ritual. Do we need a ritual to make yourself more dedicated to what you're trying to do in the future? Possibly. Is that best done in a ritual, or is that best done in something else?
Well, the experimentation is more around what makes a good ritual. So just picking a random thing like, oh, I want a ritual that enhances my video game playing, has value in and of itself, because learning how to put rituals together and what works to make rituals work in different contexts is in and of itself useful. I think that was more to the point that Manuel was making originally, and that work hasn't been done. And to the extent that it's an experiment and we might throw it all out, fair enough. But learning how to do it and how it, or at least coming up with theories about how it might work and what the utility is and what things maybe we can't do with rituals because we can't figure out a way to, to facilitate that, and ritual helps us, because then we can go, oh, look, we tried to come up with a ritual for this, and maybe we're just, maybe we're not smart enough to, or whatever, but that's fair too. Then this group can't make a ritual around that. Maybe we need to facilitate that, psychotechnology or whatever requirement some other way. And so just having that information in of itself is useful. And of course, only if people want to take on the gauntlet, right? Like if no one wants to do it, or we don't have the manpower or whatever, then that's fine too. But if people are looking for ways to contribute, that's one way to contribute that is definitely useful, even if you end up throwing out, most of the actual product, because the result of generating the product will generate a bunch of information that will be useful going forward.
Yeah, ideally there would be different groups working on different things. So these aren't projects that everyone has to be working on. You want to find people who have certain interests, in these areas to do certain things like that.
So I created, I think it was 3 ritual ideas that are currently in the crypt pad. Has anyone read through them or tried them out? I kind of tried out one of them at summer solstice.
I haven't seen it. Do you want to give a brief description?
Not really, because I'm on my phone. Well, actually, I can probably have it open at the same time. Just give me a minute for the crypt pad to open.
Yeah, I didn't engage with the crypt pad ritual, so I don't,
okay.
I'm not familiar with it.
So I put in 3. We were talking about rituals for a while, so I put in 3 ritual ideas. So one was a festival celebrating order / the rational side of the psyche, celebrated on winter solstice, or the shortest day of the year. And I was suggesting quiet contemplation of the self from sunset to midnight, of what of the self in the past year and the aspects that you want to sacrifice and who you want to become in the coming year. So for self-improvement. And then at midnight, basically basically like the fire ritual, where you've written down what you want to sacrifice and what part of yourself you want to sacrifice, and you put it in the fire and tell everyone else who what you're sacrificing and what you want to become. And so that way it's to motivate change and development of the self, because you're kind of spending time to think deeply about who you are and who you want to be, and figuring out, okay, what changes do I need to make to become who I want to be and stop being these parts of myself that I don't like.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, so that has elements of John's practice, nightly practice of commission, omission, and yeah, that's great. Yeah.
And then on the summer solstice, do a festival celebrating chaos and the emotional side of the psyche. So have like a community gathering with a community dinner or potluck, and then like creativity, so music and singing and ecstatic dancing and painting your faces. Or what I ended up doing actually when I kind of tried this was I got sidewalk chalk and we drew all over the driveway, and everyone had, well, no, a bunch of people brought instruments to try to play music. And then I was saying, suggesting music and singing and stories and jokes and creativity. And then at midnight or whatever time works best, do a ritual where everyone's directing metta to people close to them, the community and the world. So maybe sitting in a circle and doing it meditatively, or maybe doing it while dancing and singing and shouting.
That's really cool.
And then I was trying to figure out some kind of something to celebrate festival of the dead. So celebrating death as part of the journey and just an element. And the ritual I suggested associated with that is at some point maybe sunset, community gathering in a place of remembrance like a graveyard, and everyone bringing a candle and taking it in turns to step forward and light the candle and say the name of the person who died the last year along with a brief sentence about them, and then have the community direct metta towards that person's family or community for remembrance and communal grieving.
Wow.
Yeah, I think that's I don't, maybe we discussed it in the text channel like before, but that sounds like some of the ideas I've thought of, so I like it so far.
Yeah, absolutely. And this might, like, I've thought maybe another side project for the writers and the poets and the philosophers to get together is to create new modern day, mythos. And, we could come up with stories, that go along with each of those as well. That would be really interesting to try.
Well, I did suggest something along those lines. Respect mana. Zombie crop.
You're cutting out a little bit there.
Yeah.
Quite a lot, actually.
I was just saying, I remember suggesting some of that with respect to a narrative around zombies and mana and potential, the soul and what. I don't know if that way.
Yeah, we were kind of having a discussion about rituals in the channel, and then Coffee said, "Guys, don't just make stuff up for no reason." And so I took those ideas from what we were discussing and like put them together and added other things. And
yeah, so that sort of stuff can go on the wiki or wherever, but like I said, the group Lectio practice already has a bunch of documents. They're not complete, but they're actually 90% complete, so that people can just practice the group Lectio, right? It's got a, if you're the facilitator, is the theory, it's got a document of theory, a documentation on facilitator, and then the reader, and then the participants, and all the responsibilities, so people know how to engage with we'll say, that practice. So the rituals be the same sort of thing, right? Like, here's the format of the ritual, here's the theory behind the ritual, and then here's something that explains what you do in the actual ritual, all the components.
Oh yeah, and I really like the idea of swapping the time of years that you had for like the rational and the chaotic one, because you want everyone to be as jovial as possible in the dead of winter. And I guess most people are in the northern hemisphere, so
no. So the idea is that it's practiced in a different day on the northern and southern hemisphere.
Oh right,
so
okay. So
you practice it at your winter solstice. So if you're in the southern hemisphere, then that's what's considered in the middle of summer for the northern hemisphere.
Yeah.
So I want to introduce something that I think might be the most important thing and it's like a mechanism for giving feedback on things. Where when people start trying stuff out, that we have a format of gathering information, like what do people need to pay attention to when they're trying to give feedback? Like I think it's really valuable to systematize that and then find a way, like I don't know, maybe like a Google form or whatever, right, where we can start gathering this information, because I think that's maybe the thing that has been lacking most up until now, like the way that we receive feedback from people.
So something like, this worked really well, this didn't work very well, this is the main thing I really enjoyed, these are the things I really didn't like, this is what I'd do differently next time.
Yeah, but yes.
And yep, and for each participant, if they're willing, like you don't want to force people, right? You don't want to say, if you're doing this ritual, you have to fill out this form. But having a form, right? Because again, this goes back to Tron. Part of Tron's mission is experimentation. Well, if you're going to do experiments, you need to gather data, right? And so you need a formal way of gathering the right kind of data, so that when people engage in these practices, you actually have something to look back on so that you can improve, because everybody talks about improving the practices and then doesn't gather the data, and so it's not possible to improve practices.
And we got to remember, right, like, so for example, if we're doing this right hemisphere thing, right, like the whole purpose of the thing is to accentuate the symbolism of the right hemisphere, right? So yes, we want to have fun, but we need to have fun in remembrance of the right hemisphere, right? So the feedback needs to be in that context, because if we're just gonna have a festival that's not doing anything significant in relation to the symbology, then like it's worthless for its function, right? Like then it's just a day to get together.
That's the whole point with that I was making with, all right, so don't make rituals for no reason though, and we don't know the reasons that we need rituals for.
Well, yes, right, but we so first of all, when I think about a ritual, I think like more in the sense that Mark said, like not something that's once a year, but like something you do regularly to remind you of a thing, for example, right? And the reminding, right, that can happen like once a year, or that can happen like every week or every day even, is the important part of the ritual, right? So in a sense, it's upkeep, right? You're doing mental health clearing or whatever, right? And so what you want from the ritual mostly is that it's easily accessible, right? So it's low cost to maintain it, and it's also fulfilling the function that you require. So getting information about how it's fulfilling the function that we want it to fulfill, that is more what I'm talking about with feedback.
So less of a did you like it, didn't you like it, but more of a did it do its job?
Right. I mean, both are important, but yeah, did it do its job? Maybe some way to measure the effect, which is
Would you do it again?
Yep, exactly. Yeah, because if people won't do it again, it doesn't matter. Yeah.
And like, right, like, how do you think it could go better, right? And then you need to also articulate the context in which it can go better, right? And then, so that's all not straightforward stuff, I guess. That's what I mean. Everybody can pump together a form, right? But the form needs to have the right questions to gather the information, and that's yeah, a little bit harder.
I mean, kind of, but at the same time, it's pretty similar to the plan, do, review cycle that happens with iterative development, right? You're saying, all right, so what went well, what went badly, what could we do next time to so that everything works better? Except that what you're trying to have work better isn't necessarily a program or something like that. It's whatever the purpose of the ritual or festival was.
Yeah, that basic format works great in all contexts, and yeah, certainly software development stole it from other places that were doing it for quite a bit longer, we'll say. But you do have to customize it for the ritual, and yeah, there's a bunch of stuff that's always the same. Like, would you do it again? How did you feel? Blah blah blah. But there's also a bunch of stuff, to Manuel's point, that's going to be specific and tailored to that particular ritual to make sure that we're capturing whether or not, or maybe how much of the intended purpose is actually working for the audience.
I think we've covered some good stuff tonight.
Yeah.
So does anyone have feedback on those rituals, or is it let's wait and try them out a couple times and see? Not necessarily once a year.
Well, like I'd add more stuff, right? Like the ecology of practices. You generate.
Yeah, you're saying additional things, not also do X, Y, and Z at a ritual.
No. Like if you like, so what you were talking about mainly were like holidays, right? Which I think is an awesome idea to have holidays to specific things. But then, right, like when something like that occurs, then there's a lot of different people with different interests that will show up, right? So everybody needs to have something that's suitable for them, right? Like not everybody's gonna have the same interest, the same capacity, the like needs to be something for the kids, right? Or like all of that stuff, right? Like if you want to get serious about it. So yeah, that's something that should be added over time.
So I've figured out now how to do the reaction roles. So what I'll be doing probably next week is setting up where people can sign up for things like, ritual committee or, mythos committee or the various different groups. And, we can start having working groups. I think those were all great ideas that should be worked and developed and played around with and experimented with.
My idea was that different communities would have different ways of doing things. So some communities, they might have like more people who want to sit around telling stories. So they do more sitting around telling stories and less running around and shouting and making music. And that like different communities and different subgroups within the communities would kind of develop naturally as someone decided, okay, I'm going to go over here and do some painting, and then say 5 other people think, oh, hey, painting's a good idea, I'll come do painting with you.
Right. Like, I agree that that will naturally happen, and that's something you want, right? But when we're designing something, right, we're designing something. So, like, when we want a holiday or whatever, right? Like, we have to choose what we want in it and how we get it, right? Like you're gonna have to do it top down, because else it's just like, yeah, some empty shell that's meaningless. Like, you need to have the coherence to have the meaning.
I think those ideas are really great, Shivani. Thanks for workshopping that.
Yeah, I think the ideas, what I heard, they are at least aimed in the right.
Did anybody else want to sign up to get involved in some particular like mythos or more rituals or note taking or something else? I mean, it looks like we get a lot of people here, but not, not everybody has something to do, we'll say so.
So a little thought I keep having for the past few days is maybe this whole idea of we sign up for certain projects is maybe not the right way to frame it. If we've got this wiki thing going, all the projects are available to everyone all the time, and then you can just kind of join in on whatever you want at any time.
Yeah, the idea of rules are that. Sorry. The idea of the rules are that if you could have everybody who has an interest in it, and if you want to just draw everyone's attention, you can do it. You can at them, right? So you can.
Oh yeah. Okay, that's fair.
The benefit of having groups, though, is that kind of there's these people over here who are meant to be doing this. Have they done it? If so, then great. If not, then hey guys, why can you get some work done if you have some time?
Right. So the format I put on the wiki initially, or Manuel and I put on the wiki initially for the RTNAR project, is that you have an owner, maybe 2 owners, right? And then that way people can sign up and say, I'm working on this with this person. And the purpose of having an owner is that if you don't have an owner and you don't have a way to track progress, the iterative development model doesn't work, right? Because there's nothing to iterate on, because no one's responsible for anything. And when no one's responsible for something, it will not get done, right? I can tell you this from over 30 years of project management experience. It will not get done if there's no owner. Like, ownership is key. And yes, anybody can contribute at any time, whether they're listed as on the project or not. That's easy to do. But you still have to have somebody, who's responsible for delivering something at some point. It doesn't have to be a specific time frame, but you do want to see progress over at least months. Otherwise, things won't actually happen.
And any groups you guys want me to make, just let me know and I can create the groups.
Well, I think here's a question that I could ask that, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, so the people that haven't spoken, what would you guys like to see out of a religion that's not a religion?
rephrase it a little bit. What do you think? Like, what's one of the things you think the religion that's not a religion has to do that maybe you haven't seen people mention yet?
Yeah, well, I mean, like, you know, people are here for the meeting for a reason. It's like, what is your interest? You know, what got you here? Because the fact that people are quiet like this actually it perturbs me slightly. It seems like people don't. Well, my concern is that people don't see the room to engage in the thing that interests them the first. And so I really want to make sure that we know what that is.
And some people may just be interested. They're interested in the project and they just want to listen. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, if that's the case, then you know, just say that's higher. You know, it's my interest. I'm cool.
Yeah, definitely.
If people are just casually listening in and they have, I mean, you know, and then just happy to have you along as well.
Yeah, we definitely want to hear if somebody feels that they feel that there isn't a place for them and they'd want there to be. So yeah, please either now or after, let us know. We don't want to put you on the spot.
Too late, Brad.
With Vervaeke thing, you guys are just going to continue with the watch parties, like watching and then commenting at the same time, because I know Struan was mentioning he wanted to have some place for that, which is also one of the things I was more interested in, like keeping up with the discussion that Vervaeke's doing with John's doing with other people as well. And then, yeah, I was just mostly curious to see what the restructuring was for tonight. But I was also curious if there's like some sort of schedule. I couldn't find it for like the Lectio Divina sort of thing. And then I assume the Wisdom of Hypatia, that's just following along with John's new videos on the Western tradition.
Yeah, so
are you familiar with the calendar?
Yeah.
Because the should not remember it.
So yeah, in announcements, the pinned post in announcements has a link. So you push the push pin at the top, and that'll give you a link to our Google Calendar, and there's a non-Google version as well. We're working on, I think Algernon's working on creating a group for Wisdom of Hypatia, so that's in the works. But you could also bring up Wisdom of Hypatia in our morning meditation, post-meditation discussions. But we're probably going to have something more broad of that soon. And yeah, we've started this week. We started listening parties to our Voices of Vervaeke guest lecture, so we're going to keep that going. Although Greg Enriquez, he has 3, so maybe we'll just choose one. But yeah.
Yeah, then we have another afternoon meditation, right? And then there's a meditation being run for the European. I would imagine you can discuss any of the practices from John and in any of those forums with other people. And then, of course, if people are around, most of the people who are around, say, hang out in voice chat, are happy to engage with some of those topics too, if there's, you know, if the right people are there or whatever, because a lot of the people that are there are familiar with the meditation series. So, and the group Lectio is on Sunday usually, although occasionally we try it on Saturday as well. So there's plenty of stuff on the calendar, and if if we need more stuff or people want to do stuff in European time zones or such not, then like group Lectio, like I said, we actually have all that, or not all of it, but most of it written down. If somebody wanted to run it, they probably could, without too much coaching, we'll say.
Okay, great, thanks. So the watch parties, or the thing you mentioned with 3 with Greg Henriquez, that would be before Q&A, or how that?
Yeah, before the Q&A. So I haven't booked the other ones yet, but I'm gonna book listening parties in the schedule before each of the guests. So last time we did it the day before. We won't always be able to do it the day before, but yeah. Well, I mean, I've got to look at the schedule this weekend and.
Well, and we can always do spontaneous things, right?
Like, absolutely.
Like, if you just want to pop in and say, hey guys, in 10 minutes I want to do this, then there's probably some people who will join you.
Yeah, absolutely. the listening party chat, voice chat is there all the time. So.
I think recording can end now, if it's still going.
All right. Thanks, Velaskin. This is great.